Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here. So today's going to be another cooking video. This is going to be a recipe that is super simple and easy to follow. You obviously know what we're going to make because it's in the title of the video, but it's going to be a taco soup with some deer meat. And this is one of the easiest things to make with ground deer meat. I get it whenever I kill deer. And get it processed. One of the things that I like to do, I like to get a lot of ground venison. And the reason for that is I have a pretty good deer burger recipe that I like to follow, especially once it warms up and get outside and grill a little bit. I have a really good deer burger recipe that I enjoy. And then also we make spaghetti, lasagna, you name it. If you use ground beef for it, just replace it with ground venison, and that's what we make. Any type of dish where ground beef is called for, we like to use deer meat. So this taco soup is no exception. So really easy right now, and I'm doubling the recipe on everything. That's typically what I do when it comes to soups. I actually made another batch of turnip green soup last night. And I generally double everything, not on the turnip green soup. I follow that pretty much to the letter. Go back and watch that video if you're interested in that. But on this one, I will double the recipe just because, you know, we got a family of 5. And on top of that, I just like this soup so much that typically I'm the one that eats the majority of it. So I'll put it in the fridge and I'll eat on it throughout the week. Lunch, breakfast, dinner, I don't care. This soup is good any time of the day, especially when it's cold like it is outside this morning. I think it was in the low 20s. Yeah, so old man winter is fighting back here in North Alabama, even into March. It's March 20th today, and it was in the low 20s this morning when I got up. So, all right, what you're gonna need for this recipe, I'll tell you what the recipe calls for, and then, you know, I'm obviously doubling everything, but you're gonna need a pound of ground beef, or in this case, deer meat, venison. And this little thing right here is very handy whenever you're trying to work the ground beef, right? And maybe you don't want to, maybe you want to kind of grind it up a little bit more and have it in some finer pieces. This thing is instrumental in that, instead of just getting something like a wooden spoon and just kind of stirring it up. And that was sort of how I used to do it, but that thing really comes in handy. It gives you a better consistency, I guess, uniformity to the ground meat. But so you'll need a pound of that. You'll need 10 ounces of beef broth. You'll need 1 can of Rotel, and I go with the mild, with the diced tomatoes and green chilies. I think there's a few different versions of this particular Rotel, you know, hot and all that stuff. And you could probably substitute in whatever you want, but with my bunch, they're not big on spicy stuff. And so for this soup, it's just the mild version. And then a can of black beans, a can of dark red kidney beans, a can of corn, 1 pack of, it's the Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning and salad dressing recipe mix, and then a pack of Old El Paso, or at least that's what I use, the taco seasoning. And I go with the 25% less sodium. I try to go with the lower sodium version of any of this stuff, because especially when you're making soups and you're adding in seasonings like that, it's going to be, the sodium level is going to be through the roof to begin with. So, but that's pretty much it. That and a little bit of onion powder. So that's pretty much the recipe. Obviously, I'm going to double everything. So instead of 1 can of each, it's going to be 2 cans. Instead of 1 pack of seasoning, it'll be 2, and so on and so forth. Instead of 10 ounces of beef broth, it'll be 20. Right now, I got 16 measured out. But one of the things you want to make sure you do for like the corn and the kidney beans and the black beans, once you open those up, you want to drain those. And so I've got a little strainer over here ready for me to dump everything. And I try to pull the garbage can out, you know, whenever I'm doing something like this, because I'm constantly just opening and throwing stuff away. So I'll just have it sitting right next to me while I'm trying to make the soup. But you want to start off, you want to get you know, you want to brown the meat, get it cooked through. And then once you do that, obviously you dump everything in. This is something you could make in a crock pot too if you really wanted to. One thing I will tell you though is something I like to do, especially with soups, is make them the day before you really plan on eating them. I don't know, maybe it's a placebo thing. I have no idea, but I really just feel like they taste better the day after. You make them the day before, you let them sit overnight in the fridge, and then if you want to, you know, break them out the next day and eat them. I mean, it just, for me, I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but I feel like they taste better the longer they sit. So I try to make them ahead of time and just put them in a big Tupperware container, set them in the fridge. But I've got a potluck coming up at work on Wednesday. Today's Monday. And so I saw that on the work calendar and I was like, you know what? This might be the perfect thing to take for an office potluck is the taco soup that I love so much. I took the turnip green soup back. We had our Christmas office party or whatever, and I took the turnip green soup and it got rave reviews. You know, I've taken it to church functions as well. Same thing, rave reviews. Every time I make the turnip green soup, especially when people go into it and they're like, ooh, turnip greens, that sounds absolutely disgusting. And then they try it and it blows their mind every time. That's how my wife was. Once she tried it, I actually packed it for her lunch today. She's like, man, that is actually really good soup. So, all right, well, that stuff's browning now. Just gonna come over here and drain all of this stuff. And I'm not brand specific one way or the other. Just get whatever you've got that you can get in terms of this stuff. It's not like one's better than the other, in my opinion, again, right? So just dump everything in. And once I do that, I'll probably just rinse it. Rinse it with a little bit of water. And then that's it. And you do not drain the rotel. Some black beans down the bottom. Come on. There we go. Good enough. Good enough for government work. But yeah, you don't drain the rotel, you just drain the beans and the corn and stuff. That's what you drain. And so the recipe that I follow, it actually also calls for, I think it's like a 10 or 12 ounce can of diced tomatoes. But again, my bunch, they really don't like because once you add in a can of this and then you add in a can of the diced tomatoes on top of that, they're like, oh my goodness, there's so many tomatoes in there, and they're over there picking them all out while they're trying to eat dinner. And I was like, you know what, since y'all don't like them, I'm just gonna leave off that one can of diced tomatoes. But it does call for it in the recipe, so you know, I've made it both ways. It's just, I got tired of watching my bunch pick out the tomatoes and hand them over to me every time, so I just kind of leave that out now, moving forward. But yeah, this little handy dandy thing, no idea what you call it, but this thing is the bomb when it comes to cooking ground beef or ground deer meat, any type of ground meat. Or even in, you know, I've got some deer breakfast sausage that I cooked the other day and used this to kind of crumble it up. It works so much better than trying to just use a wooden spoon or something, because you just get a much better consistency in terms of uniformity of the way the meat is cooked. So I like using that much better. Still a fan of this coffee maker, by the way. I had a Keurig, but it went out on me. It kind of bit the dust not too long ago. Had it for, I think maybe right at 2 years, I believe. I had that Keurig, I think it was 2 years, maybe, I believe, yeah, something like that. I don't know. But it did, it bit the dust, and I was, yeah. I wanted something that took up a little bit smaller footprint overall, and this is the way to go. Plus it comes with this little guy, because my Keurig you could actually make a pot of coffee also, but I always found myself just doing K-cup, or what's nice, this little thing comes with this. You can just throw some grounds in there and make K-cup version with whatever ground coffee you want as well. So that's nice. You can do that in a Keurig also, but this little guy came with it, plus it was cheap. It was like 60 bucks. It's been working good so far. So here we are, we've got our meat is pretty much good to go. Gonna hose this stuff down here. Let that kind of rinse off. I'll have to put the phone down to add all that stuff into the pot, so you'll have to be patient on that. But yeah, so once you do that, once your meat is brown and you're good to go, everything's cooked, then you just dump everything in. And one thing I like to do, right now I've got it on medium heat. That's typically what I cook all my soups on. And this Lodge, it's like cast iron, but I think it's enamel, covered in enamel. The instructions actually tell you, I believe, to never get above medium heat for this particular dish. So I always just stick to medium, which works great. This thing holds a ton of heat. I like to cook all my soups in this, especially my turnip green soup. It's wonderful. I got this as a wedding gift from a good friend of mine. They got us this as a wedding gift back when me and my wife got married, and use it all the time for things like this. So that's it. Hold on 2 seconds. Let me dump in. Tell you what, I'll go ahead and dump in. I'll probably dump in the beans and the corn and stuff. So, all right, stand by. Let me put the phone down. Stand by. All right, so that is in. Beans, corn, all that stuff in. Now, just gonna add in our beef broth. So that was 16 ounces. I've got to kick in another 4. And on these containers, right, something just to help you guys, don't try to pour it this way with the spout down. Turn it around, pour it with the spout up. That will help it pour more evenly and consistently. Ow. My old knees don't work like they used to. We just need a little bit more. There we go, that's probably a little more than 4 ounces, so that's just over 20 ounces right there. Rotel. tell. Stuff working around. And I switched over to spoon here to get all this stuff incorporated now. Once you do that, and I've done this both ways actually before, where I will have a couple of different pots. I'll have one sitting off to the side, and I'll go ahead and mix in everything except the ground meat, because I'll be cooking the deer meat over in another pan or something. So I've done it both ways, where I just cook the meat right in the pot itself and do it that way. And then I've done it where I'll, cook it in a different pan and then transition it over. Now, if you're using something like ground beef, and maybe it's not extremely lean ground beef, and so there's a lot of fat content in there, maybe you'll want to cook it separately and then strain it. With this deer meat, I mean, there's virtually no fat on the ground deer meat that I get. I don't have any fat added into it. That's something you can do. Most processors, at least that I'm aware of, they'll add in some onion powder. There you go. But that's it. And then I just got to mix everything together, get it all incorporated, and then I'll let it sit on. I'll leave it on medium for a little while. Just kind of let it go. Once it starts boiling, then I'll dial it back and just put it on low and just let it simmer for a while. But it's virtually done. Once you do that, once you kind of let everything get hot, boil a little bit, and then just kind of get incorporated, it's virtually done. And so then it's, good to go, ready to serve. But like I said, I like to make this stuff in advance, let it sit overnight, and then, so like Wednesday, since today's Monday, what I'll do, I'll take this in the Tupperware container that'll be staying in the fridge. It'll be in the big Tupperware container, and then I'll take that in a crock pot with me to the potluck, and I'll get there early. It'll be at the office, so I'll be there starting that morning, and then I'll just go ahead, plug everything in, dump this in the crock pot. That way, bring it up to temp when it's, by the time it's ready to eat. So that's pretty much it. This is very simple recipe, and something that I would highly recommend. And if you guys are wondering, you will be seeing the stuff that's off here to my right. That's gonna be a good video. So y'all stay tuned for that. But I just gotta get all this stuff mixed together. Once I do that, I'll let it sit. And then from there, just kind of let it get hot, dial it down to low, let it sit on low, and it'll be getting served up come Wednesday. Alrighty. So that's pretty much where we're going to leave it. Just another, kind of food video. Thought you guys might enjoy. This is a super easy and simple taco soup recipe. One thing that we like to do when we make taco soup, get some of these guys, Tostito scoops, and dump you a bowl, get you a big bowl of this stuff, and then just eat it with the Tostito scoops. Awesome that way. You can throw a little cheese on there too, whatever you like. But that's it. Another cooking video down. Something else, just another idea for, if you got some ground deer meat from the season and you're wanting to branch out and do something different with it. This is a great soup to make. Like I said, I doubled everything in this recipe, so if you go back and watch the video, just cut everything in half. And that's it. We'll catch you guys next time. Y'all have a good one.